Well, as luck would have it, I have sourced a front cross member, front leaf spring, and a transmission, and some other goodies. My good friend Steve has really pulled through for me, and we're now doing an 8-hour round trip to go get these parts just to keep this video going for you guys, so I hope you appreciate it. So we're gonna hammer down there and get the truck loaded up and head on back home.
Push him over there, Ron. I might be able to.
You don't want to get run over today?
She's stiff. Oh. It's stiff.
Helping you get fit for the salt flats. This is the beginning.
There, bro. Fence it up when he tries.
I was going to say, you want to move the timing up?
All the way up? Yeah. Down again. Yeah, just doing that just opens it up, but when there's no water in it, the float's down against and choking her out.
Yep.
Let me prime it again. Black smoke, I think I got plenty of fuel.
A linear measurement of how far the piston is down in the bore.
Yeah, get that bore. There we go. Why don't we slide this? See, this I saw this. Now I don't know if that same universal's inside of this.
No clue.
I have no idea.
We got treasures. The pile of goodies.
The next day.
Well, we are back home and got the truck unloaded. I'm going to show you some of the stuff that we got here. Got a front cross member. Hallelujah. That's a big one. So that's going to save us a lot of pain and anguish. Got a leaf spring. Not the greatest, but it's mostly intact. Got some rust jacking going on in there, so we're probably going to end up pulling that center pin out, pulling the stack apart, cleaning the leaves up, but it'll certainly work for this jalopy. Got some steering linkage just in case. Got some lug nuts, since we destroyed some of the front lug nuts getting them off, and rot destroyed some of the other ones, and see if anybody can notice what's wrong with those lugs. Leave it in the comments below. Got some headlights, but can't use those for this project because they bolt to the fenders, but I thought they were cool. And can anybody tell me what these are? Drop it in the comments below if you can. And the other thing, this is the trans that came out of it. and it's quite hammered. But it is a AA 4-speed transmission. And, you know, this is what happens when, 25 years pass, but I had a recollection of this having a 4-speed in it, and I said that in the first video, and somebody made a comment that's incorrect. It's got a 3-speed, and I got thinking about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's right. Model A's do have 3 speeds, but someone had put an AA truck transmission in this Doodlebug when they did the conversion. So this was in fact a 4-speed. But that being said, this one is obviously in very rough shape. It's locked up solid. So I grabbed an AA transmission from Steve while we were down there. However, this presented new problems in that this is actually a BB transmission, which is essentially identical, but the BB transmission does not have the shaft on the side of it to mount the pedals to. Exhibit A, Exhibit BB. See what I did there? So, we're going to have to decide, do we pull all the guts out of this transmission and put them in that one? Do we try to fabricate a bracket to mount a shaft onto the side of this one? Do we attempt to figure out a way to use the 3-speed Model A transmission? There's lots of stuff to figure out here, but it has been interesting determining how this farmer put this together originally. So what it appears to me that they have done is, if you look at the input on the TT rear, that is a 6 spline that's larger than the output of the A transmission, which is also 6 spline but smaller. And I'm guessing that this is either a TT or an AA drive shaft that they then shoved into the output of the AA transmission and welded it to the splines of the output. I believe that there is splines inside this collar, but this is a 10 spline. So they couldn't just stick the drive shaft in there. And I'll show you what that looks like on this one that hasn't been molested. So I'm assuming they just shoved the drive shaft in there and welded it tight and called it a day. But that puts us in an awkward situation because we are either committed to using this setup, or we have to fabricate a new drive shaft, or we have to take the output of that one apart and bolt that onto that. There's a lot of stuff to figure out here. So I'm going to contemplate that, and in the interim, I think we're going to dive into cutting this cross member out and starting to get that replaced, because this is, as I stated previously, this is probably our biggest dumpster fire at the moment, is getting this hurdle jumped. Now, once we get a cross member in there, then regardless of what we do for a transmission, we can set an engine in it and attempt to fire it up and see if that engine's even any good, which is also going to be a big determining factor on the direction that this project is going to go. All right, so I'll put you on a time lapse, and we're going to hammer out this cross member. Well, getting this cross member out is proven to be a little bit more difficult than anticipated. I mentioned that to Steve, and he said, yeah, that's why that one's still attached to the frame horns. But anyway, took a trip to good old China Mart to get some drivers for my air hammer, and you would not believe what I found. There's the drivers, but can you believe it? I don't believe it. But as Vice Grip Garage says, I gotta believe it. I'm looking right at it. So before we fire up the compressor and make a whole bunch of noise, you might be noticing that the compressor is gone. So I thought maybe this would be a good opportunity to show you guys a few improvements we made to the shop here. One of them you saw in the John Deere H videos, but I didn't really talk about it. This was actually my grandfather's Canadian benchtop drill press, and this thing is ungodly heavy. I mean, I don't even want to hazard to guess what this thing weighs, but it's insane. But anyway, it is a Canadian drill press, which is actually a subsidiary of Buffalo drill presses. So there you have it. A lot of people never heard of one of these down here. It was an act of Congress to get this thing in here, but rewired it, and I wanted to have a switch, so I just wired the hot lead into a light switch. Works pretty slick. If you want to see more detail on that, drop it in the comments. I can put a video on it, but it's pretty straightforward. Basic 110. But yeah, this thing's been working fantastic for me. Very pleased with this little addition. And then the compressor. So what we've done is we've moved the compressor into this little room here, and then ran a flexible air line on a quick disconnect up to the ceiling, so that way if I pop that off, this coils up and just kind of dangles off the ceiling. Ran an air line through the ceiling, and then out here into a reel. And then I added a T-fitting with an additional drop right here. That way, someday, if I ever get this blasting cabinet working, I can plumb into that. And then an additional quick disconnect fitting on the reel. So this thing has been awesome. Big improvement rather than having to drag the compressor all over the shop. So pretty pleased with that. And then the best part is look at that. You can still hear me. So that's a serious bonus for making videos while we're out here and having the compressor running. Keeps the noise isolated to that little room. All right, now that we've eliminated that noise, we're gonna get the air hammer out and make about 400 times more noise than that makes. And that's a wrap. She's out of there. We can get a good look at the frame now, and not great. A little lacy on the bottom, but with that new cross member in there, it's going to be perfectly fine for what we're going to do with it. This cross member is in really good shape, so should add a great deal of rigidity. And I think what we're going to end up doing for now is I came in with the air chisel and knocked the bottoms of these hot rivets off so that I could drive that cross member off them from the bottom. I think we'll just come in with a grinder and we'll nip off what's left. That way the new cross member will slide right in there, and we'll just use 2 of these on either side. I think it should be fine. Worst case scenario, we'll put a couple spots of weld on there to hold it in place. We'll see. I haven't really decided yet if I'm going to just bolt this in place of the hot rivets or whether I'm going to tack weld it as well. But that's a good chunk of progress for one night.
The next day.
All right, so now that we got the cross member out of the chassis, we got to get the donor cross member out of these frame horns here. And I think I'm going to take a little bit different tactic than with the chassis. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to nip the tops of these hot rivets off with the cutoff wheel so I've got a flat surface. Then I'm going to come in with a center punch center punch each of them, and I'm going to drill them with a 5/16 drill, kind of like I did with the ones that were on the top of the rail on the chassis. That way, hopefully, I can have less material to have to air hammer through the rails, because air hammering on this apparatus is going to suck. So hopefully this makes it a little bit easier. We're going to see how it goes. Oh, and happy St. Paddy's Day, but it's going to be past by the time you guys see this. All right, we got a successful test fit in the frame. Not too shabby, everything lines up pretty well. We do have one small issue. For whatever reason, the donor frame had a piece of pipe welded through it, and in order to accommodate that, this little ear, they cut off on this side. And I kind of wanted to do a test fit just to see how it set in there without that ear on there, and then possibly tack it right in place without it, but doesn't sit in there all that well. There is a fairly formidable amount of pressure between the two rails. It's pinched in there pretty good. So I think we're going to pop this back out. We'll level it on a flat surface and fabricate a new foot for it to utilize this mounting hole right here. It doesn't have to be perfect, just has to tie into it. And then this rail is fairly lacy, so I think I may add a piece of material across the entire bottom of this to help bolster this bottom rail. But not too shabby for an evening. That's a good amount of progress. I'm pretty glad to see this thing sitting in here. It definitely looks a lot more proper now. So that's enough for one day. It's about supper time, and we'll pick this up where we left off the next day.